It is a huge honor today to be interviewing Dustin Burleson, who teaches at orthodontics at my alma mater. I went to UMKC, graduated in '87. I hope you're listening to this on iTunes and you're not watching it on video or YouTube, because you are one handsome devil. My gosh. I've never felt so old and ugly and grandpa-ish in my life until I sat down and saw your smiling face.
Yeah.
It probably helps you sell a lot of ortho cases. I mean, people probably just come in and say, I'll pay $5,000 when I look more like you. But you are an amazing guy. I mean, really, and I'm quite honored to have you. And first of all, I just want to start with you've generated more charity orthodontics than probably anybody on earth. I mean,
it's been great. Yeah, Smiles Change Lives is from Kansas City. So yeah, we're doing about 130 to 150 cases a year. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, start with that. How did you get involved with that, and why, and how did that all happen?
You know, at UMKC, yeah. So I met Tom Brown and Virginia Brown at UMKC, and they started in Kansas City with the Virginia Brown Foundation, and they were a part of a really integral part of our residency. And I saw, it's interesting, you know, Howard, those patients, they're not poor, they're not on Medicaid, they're working class people who are trying to get a leg up in life and really looking for some help, not a handout. And they're the most appreciative patients we see. They write thank you cards, they come in with cookies and gifts, and so I saw how it made our team feel when we would treat these patients, and we just made a commitment to help get rid of their waiting list. They had a couple hundred kids on the waiting list, and we said just send them all to us. So it's been a blast.
And what was that foundation?
Smiles Change Lives, so you can find them. Yeah,
what's the website?
SmilesChangeLives.org. Yeah.
.org. And who started that?
Virginia Brown in Kansas City and her family, and Tom Brown, her son, now runs it. And they're a very giving, very charitable family who wanted to make a difference at first in the cleft palate community, and they found the one area that all these kids were missing, or where their insurance wouldn't cover it, was with braces. So it really transitioned to braces. And I think they've treated over 5,000 kids now throughout the country.
Was she an orthodontist, or?
No, it was a really cool story. So she was a sister one sister got braces and one didn't. And she saw her sister get braces. The family could only afford it for one, so the one who needed it the most got it. And she felt like that always affected her self-esteem. And one day when she was very successful and had a lot of money, she set aside a foundation to help other kids not have to go through that detriment of self-esteem, and really has helped a lot of kids throughout the country.
And that is so true, because I was born in '62, and I want to keep saying that over and over, so when they look at this video and see how old and ugly I look, they'll and see they'll realize that you're only 36 and I'm 52, so that explains at least 1% in the difference of our beauty. But yeah, back in the day, I mean, I had 5 sisters and a brother, and in Catholic high school, one family, the Hesse family, I think they had like 22 kids, 21 kids. So when I was little, the most messed up kid, and it was always the girl. No one thought, why should a boy look handsome? I mean, you just had the money for one,
exactly.
And you'd look at that one really messed up daughter and say, okay, we got to fix her up, or she's going to have to be a nun. And so they would save her from the nunnery by sending her to the orthodontist. But now that with at the end of World War II, America was averaging 5.1 kids per family. Now it's 2.3. So now everybody in the middle class, I mean, all the kids will get ortho if that's what they need.
Exactly. Yeah.
What did you want to what did you want to talk about? I wanted to start with one. I wanted to, I believe success is how willing you are to have uncomfortable conversations with your kids, your staff, your team. And I always stop people from venting to me, because a lot of times a dentist will start venting to me about his hygienist. Say, well, if you vent to me, you're going to feel better. And that's part of the dysfunction. You need to be venting with your hygienist. You need, or the people talk about their kids will say, well, did you tell your kid that they can't do that or this or that? And no, I don't want to, piss them off, And so I want to start with the most uncomfortable conversation in all of dentistry. And that is, this is kind of weird for me to say, but the bottom line is endodontists don't really care if dentists learn how to do endo and start doing molar endo. Oral surgeons don't care if you try to take out a tooth and this and that. And it just seems like of the 9 specialties, 8 of them try to help you and don't really care and want you to do whatever you can do and be part of it and all. But orthodontists seem to be extra territorial, and they just don't like it if you even try to learn ortho. And the reason I thought ortho was cool for me is when I went through Richard Litt's program. He was a board certified orthodontist. He taught at UCSF and University of Detroit. But you can't really understand TMJ if you don't learn some ortho. Carl Misch was one of the greatest implantologists that ever lived, and he said that he was the best because he spent his early years in removable dentures and partials, and he knew how to make the removable part. And these implants that were breaking, he says, because you had the bite wrong, everything was wrong. And I see it as cross-training. But I feel like many of dentists have told me, well, I'd like to do a couple of Invisalign cases, but I don't want to piss off my orthodontist. Yeah. He would go, and then even in the orthodontic supply community, if an orthodontist is selling you your monthly supplies and you're banding 15 a month, and he finds out that you're selling one set a year to some general dentist up the street, he'll go ape crazy. So what is that? Do you agree with what I just said?
I totally agree. And so we're in a very different camp in what we teach our clients and what we do in our practice. But I'll touch on why I think that is. And that a lot of it's a limited mindset. So it's a scarcity mindset that orthodontists think there's a limited number of patients. My best referring dentists do the most ortho. That makes sense?
I know, because they see it. Every time I see time I see a kid that needs orthodontic surgery, it's because the general dentist was asleep behind the wheel when this could have been fixed with a retainer, but they've had no orthodontic training. And now when he finally realizes, wow, this little girl, when she smiles, her liver shows, and I need to send her to the orthodontist, and the oral surgeon's like, well, where the hell was this kid when she was 8? Oh, exactly. The dentist was asleep behind the wheel because there's no ortho in the curriculum. Dentists don't. I mean, how? Yeah, exactly. So say that again. When general dentists do ortho, they refer more orthodontics.
They're a better referral source. They're a better referral source, and they're a more productive referral source in number of patients because they're looking for malocclusion. Right. A lot of dentists, unfortunately, the words bite down don't show up in the exam. They say open wide and they probe, and they don't ever look at if the lower front teeth are straight. They don't refer, even though the patient's got a 12 millimeter overbite and overjet, and they refer like when the patient pushes them. So I did general dentistry when I was in residency. They let us work on the evenings and weekends. They've changed all that now. But the first place I went to work, we didn't look for occlusion. In my first 6 months there, I diagnosed 14 posterior crossbites with a functional shift because the hygienist and the general dentist just weren't looking. So if I have a dentist doing ortho, he's looking at malocclusion. He's a way better referral source for us, and they're the best to work up cases with. I think there's so many patients that, and it's our fault because we do what you just said, which is, well, why would you treat an ortho case, or how, where did you get training? Like it's some sort of secret, like it's the Bush's family secret for the baked beans, where the dog won't let the combination out of the safe. Orthodontists think they're the only ones that know how to do it. I'm convinced the restorative dentists who know how to do ortho get better restorative cases because they will pre-align before veneers, or they will open the bite before anterior crowns, and we see better results. So I actually go in with new dentists, and I sit down with them, and I'm going to have a lot of my colleagues probably call me and shoot me, or a lot of my coaching clients. I'll actually sit down with them, and we will sit down and go over their clin checks together on Invisalign, right? Really, patients want to go where it's convenient and comfortable for them, and the majority of patients could be treated, and again, this is like the AAO would just turn over in their grave hearing me say this, but the majority of patients aren't being offered ortho because we assume as general dentists or as specialists that they can't afford it, that they won't spend the time to do it. So this conversation happens a lot, right? Well, we could open the bite and you could get a better result with these crowns, but you'd have to go through ortho, and you don't really want to do that because that would take 2 years, right? But if they could get that done pre-restoratively in the restorative dentist's office, they could get it done all in one place. And I've been teaching this for the better part of 2 years to our residents and to our coaching clients, and that orthodontic specialists should be treating severe cases, class 2s, skeletal class 2s, skeletal class 3s, cleft palate patients. And there's millions of patients out there that if we gave them the proper education, would get orthodontic treatment with a restorative dentist or a specialist, and the majority could be treated with a restorative dentist. That's the message you're never going to get from the AAO, is you got to send everyone to us. Well, do you send like every prophy to a periodontist?
No.
No, right? Do you send a number 6, right, to the endodontist? Like, no. So, yeah, I mean, I've always had a very different viewpoint on that.
And the other thing is, as the owner of OrthoTown, that on Dentaltown, so many dental manufacturing companies, about 560 dental manufacturing companies that are trolling those boards and reading what their customers are saying. And they always tell me, I didn't realize that my customers, it was we were trying to make it thicker and they wanted it thinner. We were making it red, they wanted it blue. We learn it. So many people tell me that the number one secret recipe for their dental manufacturing company is seeing what 200,000 dentists are saying about their product, and we have a search bar so they can type in their product, and then they can see what everybody's saying about it. And it's just the feedback you would die for. And on OrthoTown, the orthodontists won't even let the orthodontic manufacturing companies become members. You have to be an orthodontist. In fact, I can't even be a member on my own OrthoTown website, and I own the damn thing. And I just think,
I didn't know that.
I
had no clue. That's
I just
hilarious.
think how much more informative the orthodontic manufacturing companies would be if they got to see what 5,000 board-certified orthodontists were saying on OrthoTown.
Exactly.
So then I want to ask you, and sorry, I don't want to get off topic of what you want to talk about, but I want to ask you, following that theme, the most important thing, and I want to say it right in the beginning, this dentist, most people are listening to this sound only while they're multitasking. Most of it's an hour commute to work. They're an hour on the treadmill. They're multitasking. And they're loving these things. About 7,000 dentists are listening to each show. And so I want you to clearly say, help this general dentist who doesn't know ortho, they didn't teach him anything in school. What should he be looking at a little girl and a little boy when they're little, that if he doesn't get, because he has to see this, because if you say, you might want to see an orthodontist, well, that's not selling an ortho referral. But he or she has to understand, look, if you don't get this done now, and what are the age deadlines? Is it I always hear the girls 2 years earlier than boys, like where a girl is at 6, a boy's 8, where a girl's at 12, a boy's 14. But what are the deadline cutoffs to where if you don't go get your skeletal stretched and modified, your daughter is not going to have a chin, or she's going to smile with her upper liver showing? Can you discuss that?
Yeah, it's perfect timing because I just started a brand new fresh batch of residents today. It was my first day in with the new residents that started in July. So I've been out a couple weeks down on the beach, but I finally made it to them. And the resident, it brings me, like most dentists do, because he's a dentist and he's not an orthodontist yet, will come with dental casts and say, what are we going to do? So the first step is to think of it in 3 core areas. First, facially. Does this patient need some sort of correction with facial aesthetics? So that would be a patient who has maybe a mouth breathing problem or a tongue thrust problem. Maybe they have lip incompetence, or their front teeth are protruding. They show much 2 incisal display, or they show no incisal display. So we start, much like a prosthodontist would start in setting the upper front teeth, we start at where should these teeth be in the face. So we want to look at a patient and say, are there any facial differences that this patient could benefit from if we did growth modification now? And so that for most of our patients starts around age 7. By age 7, the maxillary transverse arch width is starting to slow down inherently on its own. Now, we can still impact it for several years, but if we've got a posterior crossbite at 7, it'll be there typically the rest of the life of the patient unless we fix it. So facially moves into then skeletally. Is there a skeletal issue we could fix with this patient? And for skeletal issues, you're right in that girls mature and go through their peak growth about 1.5 to 2 years before boys. So for most girls, by age 11 or 12, if we haven't planned appropriately for skeletal correction, we might miss that window of opportunity. For boys, it's a little bit later. Average boy, Caucasian male in the United States, in North America, roughly, 13.5, right around there, 13, 14. But the problem is, in orthodontics, we want to, I joke to the residents and I say, if all you have is a hammer, then everything's a nail. So we want to put braces on, and we want to put them all on everyone like in the 8th grade. Well, for girls, that's probably too late. And for boys, sometimes it's too soon. So beyond facial and skeletal, now that's where we really want to dig in as dentists. We want to dig into, right, teeth. And so that's now our area where we get excited. So if you can separate and talk to a parent about what you see facially, most likely not a whole lot. It's probably a cute boy or a cute girl. It doesn't need a whole lot of facial improvement. But then skeletally, could you say, where are the jaws in relationship to the face and teeth? And can I fix this with braces alone? Or will I need some sort of orthopedic correction, some sort of functional appliance? Or is there surgery that could be necessary? And we want to talk to parents about that early. If dad comes in and he's got, like you said, he smiles and you can see his spleen, or he's got severe underbite, and you ask mom, like, does this run in the family? And she goes, oh, yeah, we were just at a family reunion, and 3 of his uncles just had jaw surgery last year. You want to kind of start to prepare mom for, we're probably not going to fix this with braces. This might be something we wait later and do surgery with.
Do you ever offer them a free vasectomy or a free tooth ligation so this doesn't happen again? No, the face is the most important, because I didn't get mine fixed when I was little. That's why every woman says I'm a two-bag man. They put a paper sack over my head, and then they put a paper sack over her head just in case my sack falls off. But yeah, and then I want to also tell you, I don't know if you really experienced this, only being 36. I'm 52, but back in the day when I was got out in '87, the biggest complaint with orthodontists from general dentists is that if I sent you 100 people, they all 4 got 4 bicuspid extractions. Yeah. And there were several orthodontists in my area that they did on that's all they did. Yeah. So then humans are extremists. So then it extremely went to the other side. So then there were general dentists who would never allow anybody to have a 4 bicuspid extraction. And the truth's always in the middle. It's not black, white, yes, no, up, down. So I want you to talk about the next deal, 4 bicuspid extraction, because I know my dentists. I mean, I've been watching them talk on Dental Town 4 or 5 hours a day since 1998. A lot of them are freaks against 4 bicuspid extraction. And if you said you ever did that, they would just check you off.
Absolutely. Well, I think it comes out of the right place, and that because we were extreme with it. And why we were extreme with it is because we were banding every tooth. And just to get the appliances in the mouth, we had to sequentially band teeth. And it took like 5 to 6 millimeters of space just to fit all the bands in. So most patients, probably well above 75%, all throughout the 60s and 70s, were getting tooth extraction. Now, everyone forgets that Edward Angle was wholly opposed against it. And him and his best student, Charlie Tweed, got into huge fights about extraction versus non-extraction, and Tweed didn't have the guts to start taking out more teeth until Angle passed away. It was that bad. When Charlie Tweed brought his first case into the Edward Angle Society and showed them that he had taken out 4 teeth, they kicked him out of the meeting, physically removed him from the meeting. Right, so we've had this debate for 100 years.
Oh my God, what year was that?
This was like early 50s.
Wow.
Yeah, Angle passed away, maybe late 40s, but and UMKC has a great history of that, because Tweed's #1 student was Laverne Merrifield, who was a program director at UMKC for decades, and so we've had this debate back and forth forever. The truth now, if you look at most of our clients and inside of our practices, about 9% of patients could benefit from tooth extraction. And these are patients that have such severe crowding. And here's how we dictate it. We never take teeth out to correct a class 2. A lot of orthodontists were taking out lower second premolars to slip the molars forward and correct the class 2 through tooth extraction. We never do that. With patients with extreme crowding, where pushing the teeth too far forward might cause gingival recession or might actually cause lip incompetence, for those patients, we will actually recommend tooth extraction. In our practice, it's about 9%. The rest, with today's technology, we can do expansion and arch development that really doesn't require any extraction at all.
So, and then I also want to ask something on I've lectured in every continent but Antarctica, because I'm afraid to lecture to penguins. But there are a lot of people talking about how in Europe that some countries don't pull bicuspids, that they'll pull second molars. Do you?
Absolutely.
Will you? And every podcast I do is downloaded in every country measured by iTunes. So you're talking internationally. So why is that? Why is there a difference between North America and Europe on that issue?
It is definitely a European treatment plan. In fact, one of our practitioners that works in one of our practices for years took out second molars And a lot of it is the resistance of the dentist or the surgeon who's going to be asked to take those teeth out. And so there's nothing wrong. At the appropriate time for a patient to have the second molars taken out and distalized to make room so the third molars or wisdom teeth can come in. The problem is for someone my age to ask a surgeon to do that, some of them will say, no, I'm not going to take those teeth out. They're perfectly healthy. And for some reason, we've just been preconditioned in the U.S. that we can take out premolars, but we won't take out second molars. We have clients and we have colleagues that take out canines sometimes in severe crowding cases. That starts the biggest controversy ever, right? Because now you've got pertussive and lateral guidance all over the place, right? So I see a lot of cases in class 2 with crowding and the appropriate mechanics where that works out really nicely. So 2 areas, the orthodontists aren't trained in it, so there's not a whole lot of faculty members at teaching positions that teach orthodontists how to take out second molars, and it's really about timing. And then third, younger practitioners that do it and know how to do it, we get some flack from the oral surgeon going, who the hell are you? We've never heard of this before. Or the guy down the street never does that. He's 30 years old, or he's been doing it for 30 years, and you're brand new. So a lot of it was that. We get a lot of flack on fixed retainers, without switching the topic too much, and that, fixed retainers sometimes are great unless the dentist who referred the patient says, you're not going to put one of those in my patient. So we've had a lot of dentists say, you're not taking out second molars on my patient, even though I do think that is very common in Europe. You're exactly right.
I think it reminds me of another thing that's funny, like some dentists will pull out a second molar, but they won't do, a second bicuspid, but not a second molar, emotional. And it's so funny to watch these dentists talk about how bad you are to file down, for a missing tooth, to file down 2 teeth for a bridge. Yeah. And like that enamel, it was made by a sacred cow, but they have no problem blowing out the whole maxillary sinus and stuffing up dead cow bone. And it's like, oh, so the enamel on 2 teeth is sacred, but you can shove paper clips into a sinus and it's, hell destroy because you're a dentist. And I talked to my ENT friend. I don't know if I should say his name on this podcast. I said, so what do you think of these sinus lifts that dentists do?
Exactly.
He thinks we should be filing down the enamel of the 2 adjacent teeth and stay out of his sinus. And I don't know if that's real or his territory. He just doesn't want to walk in there someday and see cow bone in the sinus, and it's just so whatever. So yeah. So now you maintain 4 orthodontic offices.
Yes.
You own soon
to be 5. Yeah. Yes.
You own 5 offices, and you have time to teach, and you have time to consult. I mean, my God, is that right?
This is kind of the pot calling the kettle black because I think you're 10 times busier than I am. But yeah, it's true, and so I don't sleep a lot.
So what is, first of all, introduce who you are. I didn't properly introduce you. You also consult to do you, orthodontists or to general dentists too, or both?
It's about 98% orthodontists. There are some cosmetic dentists and some dermatologists in the group. So anything elective.
98% orthodontists, and the others were what?
Cosmetic dentistry and dermatologists.
Cosmetic dermatology. And what is that? Now, if a general dentist is listening to you, would you take on a general dentist client?
We do. Most of them are spouses of our orthodontic clients. And so because most of the systems we teach are geared towards orthodontic clinical efficiency and marketing, a lot of them would work. They'd have to take it and kind of stretch it and change it into implant dentistry and change it into restorative dentistry. But so we started, we opened the practice in 2006. We had our first month, we started 1 patient, and I went home and said, we've made a horrible mistake. And the second month, we started 0 patients, and I went home and said, well, we really screwed this. We really screwed this up. We grew it to 2009 to about a $1.2 million practice, and the wheels were like about to come off, and that it was me staying late at the office, fixing everything that broke and doing all the lab work. And, and a lot of people have heard the story, but it begs worth repeating that, one cold morning in February, I left for lunch and so did the team. And I was the only one that came back. So I had the entire team walk out because the office was really, really good at treating patients. It was really stressful, the systems we had put in place to have the team follow up on them manually. So in 2009, we got involved with Infusionsoft and started automating.
So in 2009, your whole staff walked?
Whole staff walked out. Yeah.
Oh my God! Did you cry? I mean, what did you do?
Oh yeah, I called my wife. I said, "You got to come in and help." We had one employee who stayed. She was a dental student at the time, and she was back in school. And the truth. So the punchline of that story was I deserved it. Right? We had created a place that was so stressful for the team that we sat down and said, we're either going to sell this thing, file bankruptcy, or we're going to have to change something drastically. We decided to fight through and make it work, but we took everything we do, every muscle movement, every phone call, every letter, every card, every recall, everything we do more than once in the office, and we automated it with software. So now we focus as much on building team members and building associate doctors and as much as we do on building smiles. So fast forward today, we've really...
The best foundation is always rock bottom. I mean, it's rock bottom. And a lot of times, us humans, we need to hit rock bottom. I mean, I know a lot of dentists that didn't change their behavior until, something drastic happened, and it's the best thing that ever happened to them. And by the way, I don't have a cold. I'm sorry, but my nose. Ironman is 103 days away. So whenever I do my Ironman swim, it's 4,000 meters, it's 3,850 meters, 2.4 miles. But when I swim for 2.5 miles in a swimming pool, I have about 18 gallons of swimming pool water in my sinuses. And every time I do my Ironman distance swim, everybody thinks I'm sick. So I'm sorry that. But it was so. Now, did you create your own software?
We built it on the back of Infusionsoft. So we actually
explain what Infusionsoft is.
Yeah, and so Infusionsoft is basically a software that helps you manage every step and every piece of interaction with a customer or a client or a patient.
Now, is that what you call CRM software?
Exactly. It's a CRM software. So it's customer relationship management. Okay. And it automates direct mail for us. So it automates postcards. It automates voicemail reminders. It automates emails. And we even use it for our employees. So we onboard new employees with a systematic way of on day one, everything that should show up shows up. On day two, they take a course. On day three. So we've really systematized so that we could grow and leverage.
So they make that open source so that you can add to it?
Yeah, cool. So you can really do anything with it. So as a great story, when patients would get their braces off, we always survey them and said, all right, what's the number one thing you want to go eat now that your braces are finally off? And everyone said, I want a caramel apple, right? So every Friday I would drive my sorry butt to the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory and buy a bunch of caramel apples and pack them into little bags and ship them to our patients when it wasn't 100 degrees. And in the summer we would ship a gift card. And patients loved it. And as we grew, you'd start to miss one or forget one, or I'll go next Friday, and the system would break down. Today, those all happen automatically. So Infusionsoft knows the minute a patient checks out on our software that they got their braces off, it triggers a sequence. Our fulfillment center prints the card, stuffs the caramel apple. This all ships out of a place in Wichita, Kansas, of all places.
That's where I was born.
It all happens automatically. Yeah, that's where everything great is.
That's where I was born and raised. Love that town.
So it's really, really interesting that, the consistency in the relationship and how we actually communicate with patients is sometimes great and sometimes very, very, very inconsistent. And this software helped fix all that for us. And so that's really what we've been teaching for the last 3.5 years is how dentists can take back control of, they want to be in the operatory with patients. That's where we all want to be. But, at 5 o'clock on a Friday or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday, they're checking reports, they're paying payroll, they're doing things at the office that can all be automated for them, and that's really what we've done. So that's the consulting side of our business.
So do they buy this from you? Do they go to burlesondds.com?
They'll go burlesonseminars.com, and it's a licensing thing.
Burleson,
yeah. So,
Burleson.
Yep, seminars.com. Seminars. Yeah.
And these seminars that you do, are they are they mostly all for orthodontists?
It's mostly orthodontists, but we have a lot. So any dentist who's doing elective procedures. So if you're doing implants, if you're doing veneers, if you're doing Invisalign, we do have a lot of dentists that come to our live seminars as well. So we're doing one this Friday, and it's on teaching treatment coordinators how to effectively communicate with parents to present cases. So we've been doing that for years.
Have you made any online CE courses for OrthoTown?
Not yet, but we should.
I really wish you would. I would know. I'm not allowed to go on there, but cool. if you do, just send me an email. Say it's really there. Take a screenshot of it so I can see it.
It's the best. It's the funniest and most backwards piece of information I've learned all month is that you can't get on OrthoTown.
It's just. I mean, I love them. I love them to death.
I own it.
I own the damn thing, and I can't get on it. But so on your burlesonseminars.com, what do you teach mostly? Is Infusionsoft? I guess what I'm getting at is Infusionsoft big in dentistry, period, or is this some special niche thing that you've introduced Infusionsoft?
It's really not. It's growing in popularity. And what it is, the way I describe it is it's like getting a Ferrari delivered to your garage, but it's delivered in all the pieces. It's not been put together. So it's this really powerful machine, right, that if you can get the wheels on and get the transmission put in and get the seats and get everything organized and the engine running, it's amazing. But it comes as a blank slate and you have to go build it. So we work with a company called Dentma, who's licensed to use our stuff and go and implement that for dentists. So they can call us and say, is my area available? Because we don't have doctors across the street from each other using the same system. And Dentma plugs it in and starts to then automate. So for example, when a new patient calls our office, today, they'll get a package of stuff in the mail that welcomes them to the practice. They'll get a map and directions. They'll get a DVD that talks about what service options we provide. And all that happens automatically, where years ago we had to remember, okay, Susie needs that thing mailed to her because she has a new patient consultation coming up next week.
So Dentma, is that Dent?
Dentma, yeah, Dentma, Dentma, yeah. They're really bright guys.
Is that Dent from dental?
Dental, exactly, yeah. So the two founders, they're computer programmers. Their dad was a dentist, and we recruited them out of Infusionsoft to help us build this thing. What it does is it talks to your practice management software. So Dentma helps Infusionsoft talk so that every patient automatically gets what they need to have.
Are they your employees, or
No, they're their own company, yeah.
And do they only do dental now?
It's pretty exclusively dental, yeah. They've got a bridge between Infusionsoft and every practice management software. So Dentrix,
I would love to meet those two guys because
Cool.
I have 5 programmers. Can you introduce me?
I will.
And so how long has this been out? How much does it cost? How many users do you have?
We've been doing this since late 2009, so right when the practice transitioned, we fixed a lot of this stuff. Dentists and orthodontists started coming to us saying, hey, can you show me what you're doing? Can we see how this is working for you? Because Infusionsoft, we kind of went on tour with them and talked a lot in front of their users. And there's a lot of dentists and a lot of corporate practice owners or small practice owners or everyone trying to figure out how to really have a CRM software that really delivers what they need. What we've all got right now is like bits and pieces of the house calls here and the text reminders here and the email system here, and this really brings it all together. So we license it in every major market. A market the size of Phoenix probably has like 8 licensees. A market the size of Kansas City probably has like 4 or 5. And the software ranges on your individual needs. We've done customized packages that are 6 figures, and we do a basic package that starts right around $7,000. So it's really about, so if you look at from the minute a patient calls your office until the minute they're done with whatever procedure they have done. And we have a general dentistry version of this as well. So if a patient comes in and gets a crown prep, it shouldn't be a mystery when things need to go to the lab. It shouldn't be a mystery when they should get a phone call if you're not doing same-day crowns. All those things can be systematized. We say if you've done it more than once inside of your business, you can automate it. So every muscle movement, there's no reason anyone should be going back and saying, I wonder what insurance claims haven't been paid this month. I mean, it should all be systematized. Every phone call. A parent shouldn't go a week after the braces go on, or a patient shouldn't go a week after having a major procedure without having a phone call from one of your team members or the doctor calling to check in. And before it was so inconsistent, parents would say, it was really great when we brought Billy here like 4 years ago, and it's still great, but it hasn't been the same with Sally. She didn't get the caramel apple when the braces came off. You guys didn't call her when she got her braces on. We didn't get the birthday card that normally her brother got. And so really it's about really blowing up internal marketing and expanding the practice through word-of-mouth referrals. So when we put these systems in place, we see dentists go from like 10 or 15% of their new patients coming from internal referrals all the way up to 50 or 60%. And so, that's really the name of the game. So many dentists want to focus on, give me more new patients, and really we got to take care of the ones we got.
But you're mostly doing orthodontist right now.
Yep.
So you should do an online orthodontic course online because I tell people that, podcasts, 95% of all dentists don't even know what a podcast is, never listen to one. I mean, really. And when I've studied these dentists forever, and some only like to go to lectures, some want to read the book, some want to watch a videotape, a VCR, some still want audio cassettes. There's still audio cassette programs out there where people do a monthly audio tape. But anyway, the podcast is different sectors. So we have 525 courses, 325 courses on Dental Town. They've been viewed 550,000 times.
Wow.
So,
okay.
So I want to ask you another question. You started that in 2009. That was ground zero rock bottom for orthodontics because we had a depression. Lehman's Day was August of 2008, and in 29 we had a depression, but the newly young Federal Reserve thought it was smartest to save the U.S. dollar, and so that made 25% unemployment from 32 to 36. And this time our Fed chairman had a doctorate in economics from MIT, and he knew that, give up the dollar. So he printed about $8 trillion. So that was most of the orthodontists I know, they said 2008 and 9 and 10 were the 3 worst years of their life in starts. Yeah. Was that what you heard in Kansas City?
Exactly, yeah. So we saw patients and parents who were using their home equity line of credit as an endless ATM leading up to 2008. So in 2006 and 2005, parents are just taking out another HELOC and paying for braces in one swipe. We went from $110 billion a month in home equity line of credit issued to 10. $100 billion, $1.2 trillion just evaporated in consumer spending. And orthodontists were 20% down, 30% down. They hit rock bottom with us. We all hit it, right? And so this really forced us to approach it a different way. And approaching it the different way is, once you get one patient, you better turn them into two, right? So this fall, our new book coming out is called The Truth About Referrals, and it'd be a great thing to tie into OrthoTown. We could do an online CE course on really everyone. If I could wave a magic wand, most dentists would say, just give me more new patients.
Right.
They've got so many falling out of the holes in their bucket, which we talk about with our funnel. From the minute they call to the minute they're done, you've got to nurture them and take good care of them. And they're losing them on the phone. They're losing them in the new patient process. They're losing them on failing to deliver what they promised. And they're losing them on bad customer service. And if you fix that, you drastically reduce your marketing costs because every new patient becomes two, and they would bring a friend or family member with them. So that's really what we're doing. And it all started in 2009 because we had to. I wasn't smart. I didn't figure it out before then. I had to figure it out because I had no other option.
I want to ask you about another scary issue. I don't know. I'm trying to have a hard time wondering if you're old enough to remember. When I got out of school in '87, an orthodontist in New Orleans named Lazara started Orthodontic Centers of America. And there was about a dozen who started chains that were traded on NASDAQ. But Orthodontic Centers of America was the only one to this day that made it to the New York Stock Exchange. And not only did it make that incredible feat, it had $1 billion market cap. And then they all kind of fell apart and went away. And then 10 years, there's kind of nothing. And now the corporate dentistry, they're back with a vengeance. And you got Heartland and Pacific and all these corporate chains and everything. So my question is, during the OCA days, Orthodontic Centers of America, every orthodontist I knew back then said, you know what, someday I'll be working for the man.
Yeah. And
then the man went away. Do you think do you think corporate dentistry, 3-part question, do you think it's here to stay this time, or do you think it's going to fall apart like OCA? And do you think corporate dentistry is the biggest threat to orthodontists and general dentists today in America?
I'll start with the first one. That I don't think things ever happen as quickly as we assume they do, right? So we've been saying for 10 years now that e-commerce is going to kill Walmart and kill Sears, and finally Amazon turned a profit, and one day their stock jumped 15%, and for about a half a minute they were worth more than Walmart. But Walmart's not dumb, and they're going to figure this out, right? So everything happens slower than we ever anticipate. Still, online spending is only 6%, so $94 out of every $100 are spent in a retail store. So it is happening, but it's happening really, really slowly. I think corporate dentistry serves a niche, and it serves a market that a lot of us weren't paying attention to, and those are patients without insurance, and a lot of them are migrant workers that are here and will never have insurance, and they want to pay cash and get a tooth pulled and not be lectured about their perio and not be. So you're going to see things that look more like supercuts, literally. There is one chain in Oklahoma doing this, where you come in and you point to the sign, I'll have an extraction and a filling, and they're serving a market. As far as how long this lasts, if you study private equity and venture capital into these groups, it lasts as long as they can get a good return out of it. And the minute they can get a good return somewhere else, the interest fades. And so I do think probably my guess would be by 2026, we'll see some different interest in this. I don't think they're going away. I also don't think every dentist is going to be working for a corporate chain. For me, a bigger concern is dentists and group dentists being bought out or working for hospitals. I see that being tested pretty soon. I see the Cleveland Clinic in the next 10 years buying up dental offices in the suburban ring and testing their brands. So strong brands like the Cleveland Clinic, strong brands like Johns Hopkins or Mayo could certainly test this. We're a small enough fish that no one's really had that big of an interest in us, right? And so for a large part, we've been left to operate as solo practitioners. And so I don't see it as big of a threat as most of us think, although we are definitely seeing, and I'm sure you've seen this, a dichotomy. And so in every industry, so in retail, in restaurant, in housing, everything. So if you look at the housing numbers, the jumbo mortgages are killing it right now. Like the expensive houses are selling well, and the really low-end houses are selling well, and the middle's being evaporated. So we're seeing this mass exodus of the middle class in the United States, where people become more and more dependent on two jobs or becoming their own entrepreneur. So instead of working at an architecture firm, they're solo freelancing, and we're going to see that more and more. And so we're just following models that have been out, 40 years ahead of us. And if you look at emerging markets, they're where we were 50 years ago, right? So like 80% of Yum Brand's growth is outside of the United States. 78% of Tupperware's growth is outside of the United States, right? Almost a quarter of the profit from Apple is in China. It's like, so we're seeing what's other countries in growth mode have growing middle classes. They have a strong work ethic, and they have really a fueling system and a fueling growth system to support that. We had that post-World War II. We lost that about 15 to 20 years ago. And so I think dentists are going to have to adapt. They're going to have to move up and go into niche boutique practices or move down. And if they stay in the middle, they'll probably conglomerate. And I think a lot of them will be with hospitals. And there's nothing wrong with going up or down. There's nothing wrong with either one of those models. Some of our biggest clients are clients treating underserved populations, right? And some of our other biggest clients are treating, the housewives of Orange County. You got to pick one and pay attention to what your market is telling you.
Why do you think America lost that 15 to 20 years ago?
Oh God, you're getting me in trouble talking politics now. I honestly think we got rid of the draft, right? And so we got rid of the draft, and we created a whole generation of people that have no idea what it is to really sacrifice. We've got 38% of millennials living in mom and dad's basement, and 3/4 of them are fine with it. If you survey them, we're fine. Mom does my laundry. Mom cooks my meals, right? I'm happy with it. We've also lost, and I think, really a work ethic change as a part of that, and that a lot of young people want everything their parents want, but they don't realize their parents struggled to get it. Right? They think mom and dad always had the big house and always had the nice cars. And unfortunately, so I think we got a work ethic issue. I think we got a study ethic issue. And I think two things: getting rid of the draft and taking the dollar off of gold, off the gold standard, was a huge problem for the United States. Still, I love it here. It's one of the greatest country in the world.
And, another warning sign that I see is whenever I go into a university, every PhD student is an immigrant. There are no Americans trying to get a PhD in chemistry, biology, math. You go to ASU, to any postgraduate PhD program, no Americans are in there. I mean, born in America.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of curiosity in what made this country great, and it was a whole lot of hard work and building and ingenuity and yeah. I mean, so if you look at the number of people applying to engineering programs. And the number of people starting businesses for the first time, it's immigrants coming over.
Well, the one thing that no practice manager person will say, but I make a living off being, I think successful people talk about uncomfortable things. Yeah. And every dental consultant that I know, that I've known for 20, 30 years, says the same thing. The 5,000 dental graduates, the ones who will always do the best are all the ones that weren't born in the United States, because they will come out of school. They will rent 1,000 square feet, and they will work there 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week, and that's all. They won't even have a car. And maybe they have an $800 studio apartment that they walk there. But the Americans walk out, and they go buy a practice, and it'll be 1,000 square foot. They'll buy a home that's 3,000 square foot. They'll buy a $30,000 new car. They'll eat out for dinner 5 nights a week. They're taking trips and cruises on credit cards. In fact, every dental student always talks about how, I graduated $250,000 student loans. And I looked through that, and every spring break, they went on a cruise. They went to Cancun. I mean, I didn't own a car in undergrad or the first 3 years of dental school. I bought a car senior year of dental school, and I only did that because I knew I was going to need a car if I was going to be a dentist. And furthermore, they always talk about their $250,000 student loans like it's the end of the world. I remind them all their first divorce will cost them $1 million. So yeah, we have lost a ton of work ethics. So then I want to ask you this. Everyone knows dentistry is changing. No one seems to know what to do about it. Case studies in other industries can shed some lights on things we can do and things we should avoid as a profession. What does that make you think?
I love this topic, and I love, dentists who are open to talking about it. And so the first thing I'll say to everyone listening or watching is to not spend too much time being offended by what I'm about to say, because we can learn a whole lot from outside of our industry. And most dentists, when I go to a dental meeting, in the hallways on the breaks, they're talking about the newest retraction technique or the newest laser implant. Whatever they're talking about is about what I call clinical skill. And no one wants to talk about transferable skill. So transferable skill is if all the teeth in the world got sucked out of everyone's head and no one wanted dentures and we had no profession to go do, transferable skills are things like learning how to communicate, learning how to sell and ethically, persuade people, learning how to manage teams and build systems. And you learn a lot of that looking outside of our industry, because when we all get in a circle and we talk about what we're doing in our offices, there's a whole lot of monkey see, monkey do, and a lot of it's never been thought through appropriately. So, examples outside our industry, if you look at fast food came up with the idea for the drive-through. They came up with that idea by looking at what banks were doing. So banks were the first people to actually put tellers in a position where a car could drive up and do the business through a window, right? Now, if I told a bunch of dentists, hey, we're going to go to a banking convention, you're going to go to the ADA and that's great, but after that, we're going to go to a banking convention and we're going to look for ideas. They would think we were crazy, right? If someone had told Apple 30 years ago, you're not going to build computers really that much anymore, you're going to take the word computer out of your name and you're going to get into the music industry and the telephone industry, they would have said you're absolutely crazy, right? So, but the biggest and most stretching and forward-moving ideas usually come from outside of our industry. And so, we're really about helping dentists see a lot of those, and a lot of it's just driving around with your eyes open, we call antenna up, and looking for, if you experience something at a hotel and it really impresses you, think about how you can put that into place in your practice. If you're at a restaurant and they follow up with you or they ask for your email address and you get a really cool invitation to come back on your birthday, you might want to find a way to replicate that in your business. It's not, the biggest breakthroughs don't come through looking in the mirror or looking at another colleague and saying, what are you doing? How do you guys, what insurance do you take? When that happens, we really have this kind of incest, and that we really never break outside of the mold of what we've been doing forever. It's a huge bias in our industry, and it's why really I see the top guys getting richer and richer and the middle guys floundering, right? Because the top guys are looking outside of what they've always done. They realize it's going to take something different. What got us to 2008 is not going to work from 2015 to 2030. This is not going to work.
I think it's funny because whenever you talk about what you and I know is the most important, dentists always get mad. They go, well, that's just fluff. What do you use when you bone graft? Do you use autogenous or allergy? It's like, really? Yeah. Really? And now it's even, and I want to address this. Now there's this deal where they come out of school $250,000 in debt, and the dental monkey see, monkey do is convincing them that, oh, you're $250,000 in student loans, but until you buy a $150,000 CAD/CAM machine and a $100,000 three-dimensional CBCT and a $75,000 laser, you're not even a real doctor. So now they double down on their debt on 3 toys. So I want to ask you that specifically. When you see successful clients, successful orthodontists or dentists that are just knocking at the ballpark, what things do they have in common? I mean, is it because they all bought a Dolphin and a CBCT and a laser? I mean, what is the association between technology? They literally think, if I buy this toy, especially if it's shiny and has lights on it, I'll be successful. Is that true?
Yeah. No, it's not at all. And you and I know that. And a lot of people don't want to hear it, because by hearing that, it degrades the amount of time we spend in school. And I've always taught people, your clinical skills are a bare minimum. If you're not totally confident in your ability to place an implant on your mother, then you should go get more training in that area. But if you think the next whiz-bang gizmo is going to take you to the next level, listen, I meet 3 times a year with a group of entrepreneurs. I'm in a little mastermind group, and I have been pushed and challenged and stretched so much. I'm by far the smallest in this group. There's a guy in the group that has $500 million in real estate. Another guy owns a healthcare franchise. He's probably worth $250 million. These are movers and shakers. They all have a few things in common. They've got a really compelling vision for the future. No one's foggy on where these guys are going. You could sit down with their employees, you could sit down with their vendors, you could sit down with their spouse and say, all right, what's Howard up to? And they would have a real precise answer for you. They know where you're headed. So these guys are masters at leading people. They're masters at building a vision. Everything else, they can find talented people to do it. And so in our group, the most talented doctors are ones who have a bigger vision for where they're headed. So like with us on our Cleft Palate Foundation, everyone knows because that's where I want to go and what I want to do. It's kind of like, of course we're going to be open on Saturdays if we have to be to serve the patient better, because that's how we go to the next level. It's all about who you're serving in the marketplace. See, dentists don't want to hear that patients really, the minute you die or the minute you sell your practice, they forget about you. Right? We don't want to think that because we think we have gifted hands. I asked one of my residents, what's the most valuable thing in your practice? And he said, my hands, because I spent so much money learning my skills. And I had to chuckle, like God parted the skies and doves, descended and a rainbow blessed his hands because he was so gifted. The reality is, see, you could lose your hands tomorrow in a car accident. You could lose your practice tomorrow in a fire. The only thing that matters is your vision on where you're headed and the relationship you've built with your customers, clients, patients, or donors. So if you've got a good relationship with people and they believe in your vision, you can lose your hands and hire an associate to treat the patients. You could lose your practice and build another one. You could have all your staff walk out like I did, and tomorrow you could build it all back again. That's the difference. It's not about whatever gizmo you think is going to put you to the next level. That's just going to put you in more debt.
I got to tell you about losing my hands. I got to tell you one of my favorite role models and idols. And when I got to school in '87, there was like an 80-year-old Jewish dentist lady, and she fled Nazi Germany. And when she got here, they didn't recognize her dental degree, even though Germany made Mercedes-Benz and Porsche, and we made GM, Chrysler, Ford. You think they would have gave her 3 licenses, just the fact that she came from Germany. And she was so sad and depressed. But then she realized they took away my hands, but I can still legally own a dental office. She went and found an attorney and said, you can own an office, you just can't treat a patient. So that forced her to just do they call the soft stuff. And when I met her, she was like 85, 4 offices, doing $1 million. And I thought to myself, the reason she's looking rocking hot and happy at 85 is because she's so busy driving around checking on all her offices. She was the richest dentist I knew in Phoenix, Arizona. And how many other dentists, if they'd have got their hands cut off in an accident or they lost their license, would just go, crawl under a bridge and live in a box. Yeah. And so this lady was such an inspirational role model. Oh yeah, they can take away my right to practice, but they can't take away my right to lead a dental office and have a vision. And that's and you remind me of her because you have 4 offices.
And that's a mindset I think that's similar in all these practices we look at. It's in every single one. We see it all the time.
What do you mean by, you say, the law of negative preparation and how dentists are missing the boat when it comes to building successful practices? What is the law of negative preparation?
In summary, it's listing in your head, and it's not what she calls it, but it's based on her research out of NYU. So Gabrielle Ottingen's group studied this, and they found the most successful people in life were not optimists. They certainly weren't pessimists. That makes sense, right? If you're like Eeyore and the sky is always falling, you're probably not going to go on to great things in life if you think everything bad is happening to you. But they're also not purely optimistic. They switch between those. And so the law of negative preparation says, what are all the possible things that could happen to me that might screw up this plan, and what will I do when I meet those roadblocks? And so what we've done throughout our lives is to live in opposition to the truth. And that, when you and I were kids and we got on our first bicycle and we started riding down the road, we would try to turn and we would fall and scrape and skin our knee. And we learned that sometimes things work and things don't work, right? And we got older. Every decade we got smarter, right? So then you know how to drive a car and you're like, all right, I got this figured out. And one day you realize going around a turn on too slick of a road, too much rain, you learned can't go that fast around a turn. So things work and things don't work. And every decade of our lives, that's been true. In dental school, things work and things don't work. We've all had someone either swallow a crown or half swallow a crown or break a tooth, or, things work and things don't work. But we all trick ourselves into believing that from today forward, everything's just going to work. And so no one prepares for what's going to happen if I buy this new practice. What's going to happen the first day when the main water pipe breaks and it floods right before our biggest day? What's going to happen, if the entire team walks out? What do I do if an insurance carrier that sends us 60% of our patients decides to undercut our fee by 30%? No one thinks about how to prepare for all the negative things. So that's the law of negative preparation, and it's based on some research by Gabriel at NYU, and it's brilliant because if you go to the self-help section, which is the ultimate oxymoron, right? My joke is, if it really was a self-help section, you wouldn't, right? If it was really self-help, you just fix it yourself. You wouldn't need a book for it. But if you go to this stuff in the bookstore, all of it's telling you just be a positive thinker, and it's going to manifest all these great things into your life, and just think positive thoughts. And you've got to think positively, but you've also got to think of the 10,000 things that are going to go wrong and have some sort of a idea of how you might solve those. And most dentists, when they hire, so I see new clients hire a new hygienist, like, oh, Sally's great. She's going to really change things here, and this is going to be amazing. I call them in like 3 weeks. How's Sally doing? Oh, you wouldn't believe. They get so optimistic, and they don't prepare for everything they should have been learning throughout their life, which is sometimes things work and sometimes things don't work. It's when they don't work and how you respond, that's all the difference.
I remember my first hygienist I hired, a Missy. She wanted to really believe that I hired her because she won the Hugh Freedy Golden Scaler Award, and that just validated her. She thought she was the best hygienist, so she could walk on water. But I actually hired her because she just had so much positive energy and karma, and I couldn't care less about her Hugh Freedy Golden Scaler Award, and she hung it on the wall for a decade. It was like going home and seeing my mom's grotto or something. It was just so what do you think the number one enemy of private practice is? Do you think it's dental insurance? Do you think it's corporate dentistry, a weak economy?
And no one likes this answer. No, it's us, right? So we are the enemy. The joke is like, we have seen the enemy and the enemy is us. So it's our mindset and it's our inability to do all the things we just talked about. So you hit on a huge one. Do you know if today we pulled all the advertisements, if I went through Craigslist and every newspaper and every Indeed job posting and Monster and pulled every single one that was advertising for a dental position, do you know how many would say dental experience required? Or something to the effect of, I hope you've got your Hugh Freedy Golden Scaler Award, because don't come to work for me if you don't. Like well above 90%. So all of us in this example, it's our mindset. What prevents us from having a great team is we think we got to hire someone that knows how to scale teeth. And if Sally's scaling teeth, it's so well she gets the Golden Scaler Award, but she's so grumpy around patients that they never refer a friend or family member, you hired the wrong person. So you got to look outside of our industry. So Richard Branson at Virgin says, we hire people, every other airline does it wrong. Delta, American, they all hire, you have to have your FAA certification, have your basic training. American says, or not American, Virgin America says, we don't want any training at all. You got to have a good attitude. You've got to be able to solve problems. And we want you to have some sales skill. The minute he said sales skill, I went and bought stock, right? Because these are people that can talk to people, communicate effectively and solve problems for them, and upgrade them into first class, or get them to buy another trip, or get them to buy a vacation, or a rental car when they book their flight. Richard Branson doesn't say we hire people based on their experience, but every dentist hires people based on experience. And what you get most of the time are people that are miserable and have a horrible attitude. So let me think about this, right? If, let's say in my seminars business, let's say for some reason you said, I'm going to retire, I'm going to go sit on a beach, and and Howard says, I'm out, I'm done. I'm selling Dental Town, I'm selling Ortho Town, I'm not going to be a dentist, I've done it, I'm done. But you were sitting on a beach somewhere, and for some reason one day you said, you know what, I'm kind of bored. And in my business, I said, I'm looking for someone who's good with people, who can motivate a crowd, who can speak on stage, and I want someone who's full of life and who really gets what we're doing. And that we have this huge bias towards how we've always done things. And we have a huge bias on what we've already invested in. And we think, just like your assistant thought, it's all about scaling teeth. If you can't scale teeth, don't apply, right? But it's so much more than that, and it's almost always right here. It's in our head.
Yeah, I think it's funny, like a dentist say, oh, yeah, I got this really great receptionist, and she has 10 years experience. And you're like, yeah, what happened to why'd she leave last office? Did the dentist kill himself? Did he go bankrupt? So 10 years experience in what? A thriving, energetic, functionally happy, growing practice with word of mouth referral, or experience in what? The dentists, they just don't want to talk about the soft stuff. I cannot believe we are out of time, but I do know this. For me, with you, it was love at first sight. I love your energy. I'm serious. I love your karma. Would you ever come speak at a townie meeting for us?
I'd love to. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I hope you make a course for OrthoTown and tell me about it, since I'll never be able to see it. And maybe you want to tailor another one for Dentaltown. Dentaltown, we just hit 200,000 members. We have members now from every country on earth. In fact, I'm leaving Saturday to go do three lectures in Australia, because the Dentaltown, the people they see it from everywhere. How can someone, do you speak just to your clients, or do you speak for other gigs, or?
We speak a little bit for Infusionsoft and at some dental events, but mostly for our clients. But we'd be honored. I'd be honored to come to Dentaltown and do something for sure.
And if someone I can't imagine anybody listening to this who's in charge of speakers. I mean, the United States has 250 different dental societies that bring in speakers. I can't imagine anybody that would not want you to come and speak. I mean, you've just been a thrill and a joy to listen to. So if they want you to speak, they would go to burlesonseminars.com.
That's right.
Or they can email you, Dustin at burlesondds.com.
That'll work.
Do you have another email? Do you have an email for Burleson Seminars?
If you do support at burlesonseminars.com, that'll go to my assistant, and she can help get you scheduled. Yeah.
And maybe I was also thinking maybe a good sales marketing thing would be if you also made another course, or come back and where you explained your Infusionsoft software. I mean, dentists don't mind a commercial, an infomercial, if you're transparent. If you say, this is me and I'm selling this, and this is my, it's like an endo file. I don't have a problem with a company paying for the dentist who loves the endodontist who loves their file the most to talk about how exciting his file is, as long as we're all transparent and say, this file company paid this doctor to put this course. So just be transparent. Dentists are cool. They just don't want to find out that after I listened to your root canal seminar the whole hour that I find out a year later that some dental company gave you $5,000. Because the dentist usually is talking from the heart. But if you don't see that, if it's not transparent, Americans are big-time cynical bastard people. And they are. They're the most cynical. And I get that, because when I lecture in like European countries, they just see the government is there to help them, and all the industries and government, they all work together. Then you come to America that has more guns than people, and you just say the word government and they draw out their pistol and aim it at you. You know what I mean? So American, and maybe that's why we're the greatest country in the world. I mean, I don't know, but hey, man, you're just awesome. And also when you come out with your book, I want you to know that the next feature coming up, the Dentaltown app, we got 200,000 members on Dentaltown, 5,000 on OrthoTown, but we got 35,000 of the Dentaltowns have downloaded the app on their iPhone. And the next feature coming up probably in about 6 or 9 months is going to be an audiobook section and a digital book section. So if you ever get in a sound room and read your book, you can put on the audiobook. And if you have a digital book, do that. And our business model is always the same. I got 50 employees, but if you put up for free, we'll put up for free. If you charge $1, we'll collect the money and split it with you 50-50. So those are your options. But God dang, dude, you're probably the all-American boy. You're probably you should be the poster child for UMTC. You're smart, you're handsome, you're articulate. Man, I just had a blast hour. I hope you come speak at a town to me. I just want to see more of you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a rocking hot day.
All right. We'll see you. Bye-bye.